Alright, so let's talk about creating knowledge on the fly and fostering the imagination. Uh, the first example that jumped in my mind when James Seeley Brown was talking about these things was what we were doing the other day, the social studies people were doing the other day in class, in our methods class, as far as stepping into historical photos and just kind of creating creating their knowledge of what was going on in the photo, like putting ourselves in the place of these people and just kind of reflecting and sharing what we had learned with the class, or what the people were participating in that. Basically, the teacher would have them actually like physically step into a projection of the photo or right next to it and look at what was going on, kind of use their imagination to think how the people in that photo felt, what was going on, where they were, what they were doing, why they were doing it, and just kind of analyze it and just really put themselves and their imaginations into that picture. I thought that was a pretty interesting way to get people to use some of these analytical skills that are really hard to get at in social studies, especially in like the middle school years and lower high school years. Okay, well, he also talked about a learning community, people like kids teaching other kids, things like that. He said something like kids teaching other kids is the best way, or the best way to learn something is to teach it, something like that. But what that made me think of was a lot of the TCI strategies that we've been reading about in our social studies methods book as well, as far as like group work and like sharing what you're doing in that group with other groups. Kind of, it gives people an opportunity to express what they've learned to other people when different groups are focusing on different things. So we kind of did that in class the other day as well. Like when we were analyzing the different primary sources in our own groups and then sharing with the other groups what we thought was going on. So we were kind of teaching to learn, essentially. And that was just the most obvious example that I could think of when James, or when Mr. I guess it's Dr. Brown, whatever, when he was talking about that on the video. But as far as, kids teaching other kids, that's essentially what we're doing right now. You're watching this video. You're listening to me talk. I'm sorry about that. But, yeah, you're listening to me talk, and I'm expressing my ideas. And, I'm going to view other videos as well after this, and I'm going to comment on them. And we all learn different perspectives that are based on the same source video, the James Brown video. But we're all learning different perspectives on it by viewing this. We're kind of teaching others through these explanations that we're giving. And by preparing what we're going to say in these videos, we're teaching ourselves. We're teaching ourselves as we're preparing to teach other people. And that just kind of helps us learn exactly where we are in our own thinking. It helps us reflect on what we're doing. And also, I think that that this particular format of discussion is potentially really beneficial for the learning process in general, because let's say you're having a regular discussion with somebody. They're going to ask you a question. You're expected to give an immediate response, essentially, and you don't really have much time to think about what you say. I mean, people do this all the time. They go back, they think about, oh, I should have said that, I should have said that. Well, this kind of gives you that time. It gives you that delay. This particular medium gives us time to consider what other people are saying. Think about it. Reflect about what that means to us. Kind of let our prior knowledge about what we know and think about that play on our thoughts over a longer period of time. And then we can respond in what I think is a more meaningful way, and we'll get more out of it. It'll probably have a greater effect on our own learning over time. I think that this process also lets us effectively give and receive criticism. That's another thing he was talking about in the video, is the benefits of receiving meaningful criticism to help your learning process. And I think this is a good way to do that. because, like I said, we can reflect on our thoughts, have some time to think about it, and then give the criticism. We can watch it over and over again. We can, it's always going to be there. So we have a lot of time to reflect, and then we can take the criticism that we receive and then construct that into what we've already learned. And I think that that's a pretty valuable tool that we, as educators, that we could probably use in our classroom pretty easily. He also kind of hinted at this notion of virtual learning communities when he was talking about how he saw technology as potentially playing into the learning process. And I did want to talk a little bit about virtual learning communities. Last spring, I was in Dr. Evans's class. It was this class called Digital Game-Based Learning, actually, and it was looking at different games and social mediums as far as their potential benefit in fostering learning, essentially. And he did some work with using Second Life as a meeting place for a classroom to explore, and it was kind of cool, actually. I had my doubts at first. I thought Second Life was dumb. I heard about it before. I just why did it's basically a chat room with avatars. I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of. But anyways, the benefit of this is possibly using these digital spaces to create replicas of historical places, and just the group that was doing the work with Second Life used a digital simulation and replica of Jamestown to use as part of a lesson plan. And the idea is that everyone in your classroom can come together and walk around this digital creation of it and explore it, and they can take that and they can kind of build upon it, and it's just kind of helps helps them to really creatively explore a space as opposed to just reading about it on a page. And I mean, it gives people a great opportunity to learn by doing, to tinker around with what's going on, what it was like back then. You can use your imagination to just look at a picture and think about what it would have been like, and then there's this possibility of using these digital spaces online, such as Second Life, to actually build it and let people go there and let them explore and let them actually tinker with what's going on. Learn by exploring. Look around. This is what it was like. Okay, I think it's got a lot of potential. I think people are going to keep building upon this to create even more. I'm sure there's tons and tons and tons of simulations of historical places on there right now. I'm just giving the one example of Jamestown, but I just see a lot of promise in this, and I think it's going to be a meaningful way to provide opportunities for students to build upon their prior knowledge, explore with what's out there. I mean, the internet is where all this accumulated knowledge is, and I think that if we can figure out how to use that in the best way to help them put together these different pieces of knowledge, then I think that it's just going to make our jobs that much more easier, and I'm pretty excited about the possibilities, I got to say. Thank you.